Good evening and welcome to Freedom Speech and You. I'm your host, Ken, and I am flying solo tonight because we are probably running up against the Hal Sparks show. So when he comes on, we will go off air so that you can concentrate on his show. But in the meantime, we're going to try to give you a show. So we have a topic suggested by our regular viewer, Jim, and we are going to start with that topic tonight. And if Jim comes on, we will discuss it with him. But obviously, we're on more than an hour early, and we're doing that because we're not sure about the broadcast schedule of our friend Hal Sparks. So here we go. So Jim sent in this topic, and he has this topic about the Supreme Court with court sides with Ted Cruz and strikes down campaign finance restriction along ideological lines. So let's see what that's about. We will get on the actual screen and we'll make it a little bigger. And we'll accept the cookies so we can move along. This is by Amy Howe. It's from May 16, and it is on the SCOTUS blog. And it is still too hard to read from home. So let me see if I can get it to make it bigger still. That should be good. Is that the start of the document? No. Okay. So you have the photograph of Ted Cruz. It said Ted Cruz speaks at campaign event in 2016. Supreme Court agreed with him on Monday that a federal campaign finance law violates the First Amendment. The photo is by Crush Rush by Shutterstock. Okay. On Monday, the Supreme Court struck down a federal campaign finance law that limits how and when candidates can repay loans that they make to their own campaigns. The 6-3 ruling, which held that the law violates the First Amendment, came in a case filed by Senator Ted Cruz, Republican, Texas, after his 2018 victory over Democrat Beto O'Rourke, which at the time was the most expensive Senate race in history. The case, Federal Election Commission versus Ted Cruz for Senate, involves Section 304 of the Bipartisan Campaign Finance Reform Act, which allows candidates to use up to $250,000 in post-election contributions, but no more, to repay loans that they made to their campaign before the election. The lower court had ruled that the $250,000 limit was unconstitutional because the government had not shown either that it serves an interest in preventing politicians from trading favors or contributions, or that the limit is sufficiently targeted to serve that interest. The Supreme Court on Thursday upheld that ruling. So the Thursday they're referring to would be the Thursday prior to the 16th of May. Writing for the court, the Supreme Court Justice Roberts began by rejecting the Federal Election Commission's argument that Cruz and his campaign lacked the right to sue because the injuries they complained about, the campaign's inability to fully repay $260,000 loan that Cruz made to his campaign before Election Day, did not stem from the enforcement of Section 304. It doesn't matter, Roberts wrote, that Cruz made the loan so that he could bring a test case. The Supreme Court, Roberts stressed, has never held that a person who purposely incurs an injury forfeits legal standing to challenge the constitutionality of that injury. And for purposes of whether Cruz and his campaign have a right to sue, Roberts continued, it also doesn't matter whether the source of Cruz's injury is Section 304 itself or a regulation that implements Section 304. Roberts reasoned that the bar on paying Cruz the final $10,000 that he loaned to his campaign is, even if brought about the agency's threatened enforcement of its regulation, traceable to the operation of Section 304 itself, he said, in quotes. So that is Roberts' own words. Turning to the First Amendment analysis, Roberts explained that Section 304's loan repayment limitation places a burden on candidates who wish to make expenditures on behalf of their own candidacy through personal loans. Specifically, he noted, by restricting the sources of funds that campaigns may use to repay candidate loans, Section 304 increases the risk that such loans will not be repaid, which in turn inhibits candidates from loaning money to their campaigns in the first place, burdening core speech. So again, these are Justice Roberts' words. Because the loan repayment limitation burdens First Amendment speech in elections, Roberts wrote, it can only pass muster if it is justified, which Roberts concluded it is not. The only acceptable reason for restricting political speech, Roberts noted, is to prevent quid pro quo corruption, that is, politicians trading favors for contributions or the appearance thereof. But in this case, Roberts observed, federal campaign finance law already seeks to prevent quid pro quo corruption by limiting individual contributions to $2,900 per election and requiring their disclosure. And indeed, Roberts added, the government has not pointed out a single case of quid pro quo. I hate words that are hard to say like that. A single case of quid pro quo corruption in this contest, even though most states do not impose the limit or the use of post-election contributions to repay candidate loans, end quote. Justice Elena Kagan dissented in her opinion and joined Justices Stephen Breyer and Sonia Sotomayor. In her view, the purpose of 304 is to, and she quotes, is to easily grasp post-election contributions pose a special danger of corruption because at that point a candidate has more than usual interest in obtaining the money to replenish his personal finances and is now in a position to give something in return, end quote. But at the minimum, she continued, even though there is no actual quid pro quo corruption, quote, the public will predictably perceive corruption in post-election payments directly enriching an office holder, end quote. Kagan closed her 15-page dissent by warning that democracy, this is her quote, democracy works only if people have faith in those who govern. Democracy works only if people have faith in those who govern, end quote. Something that is impossible when elected officials, quote, trade official acts for financial gain, end quote. By invalidating Section 304, she concluded, quote, the court fuels non-public, serving self-interested governments. It injures the integrity, both actual and apparent, of the political process, end quote. So that's the article that Jim suggested. And there is a recommended citation there if you wish to read that. It is titled Amy Howe Court Sides with Ted Cruz and Stikestown Campaign Financial Restriction Along Ideological Lines, SCOTUS blog. So there, there's that information about this article on the SCOTUS blog, which you can find at SCOTUSBLOG.com. SCOTUS blog, just like it looks on the screen. Okay, so that's what Jim wanted to talk about. I do not know. Do we have anybody else here? No, we do not have anybody else watching us yet. Nobody knows that we're on. So I am going to talk to you for a little bit, and you can keep tuned in while I go to my calendar on my other computer and adjust the calendar. Okay, somebody's looking at the calendar going, when are they going to come on? Go in there and adjust my calendar so it says that we're on. And hopefully somebody will tune in tonight. But meanwhile, we're looking, wait and seeing if Hal comes on tonight, because Hal Sparks is supposed to come on tonight. So we will keep our eye on that. And if he comes on, we will let him have the airwaves. And that way, you will not have to divide your loyalty between us and him, because I know where you're going to go anyway. You're going to go watch Hal Sparks. That's just a given. I will be watching him too. So we will see. But we are on early tonight because we were trying to avoid coming up with a time conflict. And we have a guess as to when he might come on, but we are not sure. So let's save that for tonight's event. And I have a message from Jim that says my website is backed as a dangerous site. So I'm going to respond to him and tell him, I guess you have to accept the danger then. So anyway, we are on early tonight. We've been on for about 14 minutes. We will talk about stuff tonight, and we will see what to discuss, and we'll have that. Calendar has been adjusted. I don't know whether to do other things. Are we logged into Facebook on the other computer? No, we're not logged into Facebook. So, oh well. Anyway, so we'll see whether people tune in. Looks like we have potentially one viewer. And that might be Jim, because we have a viewer on YouTube. So, Jim, if that's you, chime in and tell us hello. And I already went over your topic, but I'll be happy to go over it again. So, let's see. Got somebody sharing a video here. Yeah, our friends are on Midas Toucher Live with a podcast right now. So, hey, howdy, hello, Jim. Good to have you here. So, yeah, the Midas Touch guys are out there podcasting again tonight. They take every opportunity to come on at this time because, in their eyes, Hal is not on tonight since it is Sunday night. So, what are you going to do? You're going to have to compete against other people if you're going to play this game of podcasting. It's just the way it is. Your computer won't let you access the website. Well, I guess I may have to use the one that you suggested, Jim, because it may be the only way to get it something working, but I'm not sure why it doesn't like that website. I guess because it thinks that it's a free website, so therefore it's dangerous, that somebody didn't pay for a website to be created. I don't know. Or is it the links itself that it thinks is dangerous, like when you go to YouTube, because, and I'll have to look at this, because some of the links I set up so that you go from the website to TinyURL, and TinyURL goes out and launches the social platform. So I don't know what's said on this one. I don't know if it went directly from the website to YouTube or if it went through the China URL that I set up, and that might be the problem. And I can fix that if that's the problem. But I just tried to throw up a website this week and get it up there. And I was hoping to build an audience before I spend more money on the monthly expenses, but I may just have to just go ahead and spend more money. And I know that the website that you suggested is inexpensive the first year, but after the first year, it's $10. So, another $10 a month if nobody is really watching other than a handful of people is another $10 out of my pocket. So let's see what you got. I don't know either, unless it's because it hasn't been around long enough. The hosting service I suggested has 3 secure socket layer, and that will be a verification of security. Yeah, the site that you suggested, I'm sure is good. It's just that the one that I use, I could throw together real quick, so I threw that one together. But yeah, I may go back to what you suggested because it may be better, and we'll just see what happens there. Obviously, being on early tonight, I don't know whether more people will show up or fewer will show up. It's hard to beat having one viewer, but at least you're here, Jim, and that is very much appreciated. And Andrea is not here because it's too early for her to be on. And it's all up in the air as to whether Hal comes on tonight and when. So I had discussed your topic, and I don't know what you wanted to discuss regarding that topic. So I pay right now $10 a month for this, and I get 3 social media sites at a time. So I was able to get in on the $10 plan for this, and that's what I'm paying, but I just don't have the viewers, and I guess I don't know what to do to make them want to tune in, so the only thing I can really do is it's like go over the material that people suggest. So I read this earlier, and I'll read it again. The court sides with Ted Cruz and strikes down campaign finance restriction along ideological lines. So the Supreme Court struck down a federal campaign finance law that limits how and when candidates can repay loans that they make to their own campaigns. And as you might imagine, it came down 6-3 with a Republican majority. And they sided with Ted Cruz after his victory over Beto O'Rourke. And basically what Ted Cruz did was he challenged a campaign finance law, Section 304, the Bipartisan Campaign Finance Reform Act. And he basically created a situation where he was, quote unquote, violating the law. And the lower court had already ruled that it was unconstitutional. And the Supreme Court ended up siding with him. And the Supreme Court, Justice Roberts said that it was okay that he was basically testing the law. And they said that the law burdens First Amendment speech. And Justice Kagan disagreed and said that post-election contributions pose a special danger of corruption and has more than usual interest in obtaining the money to replenish his personal finances, and is now in a position to give something in return. So I could go through the whole thing again, but I did go through it earlier. So basically, the Republicans sided with Cruz and everybody else lost. Okay, so what are you saying? I think the real focus of election reform should be getting the big and dark money out of campaigns. Yes. And you say this is a backdoor way of buying influence? Yes. Because you sent me the wrong article. Okay. What's the right article say? Is it on that SCOTUS blog? Let's see if we can. Is it the right case though? If I'm sighing on my end, it's because all of my computer notifications are popping up and getting in the way of me reading your chat. There's nothing worse than that. So, anyway. So, if you just tuned in, you're watching Freedom, Speech, and You. I'm your host, Ken, and we have Jim in chat. You can join us in chat on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And you got to be on one of those three to see us, unless somebody else is picking us up and restreaming us. So join us in chat and tell us what you want to talk about tonight. And we are on early because we anticipate that one of our friends in the online broadcasting community, Hal Sparks, is going to be on in a short while. So instead of coming on tonight at the usual 7 o'clock Eastern, we came on at 5:45. Okay, so the article you're looking for goes into more of the influence peddling part of it. Okay. Was it on the SCOTUS blog or was it on some other source? Excuse me. I could take that title, go back to the this article. It includes more from Justice Kagan's dissent. Okay. So I'm going to take this title and I'm going to search and see what comes up. Can't I see the link? If you sent a link in Discord, I can bring Discord back up. I had brought it off my computer so I wouldn't have too many things open, but I can bring it up on the other computer. So I can look in here and I can see if you put another Discord. Okay, so you brought in another article which I can grab. Okay, and I'm going to stop sharing that one and start sharing this one. And there's going to be a video or something that you just love. So this is a CNN article. This one is by, I can't read it because the video wants to go all over the place and all these videos all over the place. Honestly, looking at CNN's website is like watching SNL talk about what it's like to watch any one of these 24-hour news channels. And like all these ads just have to pop up just like a freaking SNL skit. So hang in there. You get the screen big enough to read at home, and hopefully the ads will gradually fade out of existence. Holy moly. Stop with the ads. Goodness gracious, sakes alive. How do I get rid of that ad? Holy moly, what an ad. Does this get rid of that? That probably plays the ad. Wow. Goodness gracious, CNN. You know, you could make this easier for people to share it so that people would actually care about watching your channel instead of putting everything everywhere. So let's see what happens if we open an incognito window and grab that link. This moment of pause is brought to you by Jan Ads on CNN. Okay, now we have it on a different thing. So we're going to stop sharing. Go back to my camera. I'm going to go back into StreamYard and go back to sharing again. And it's probably this window. Is it that window? I think it's that window. Now I have a blank screen. What am I, oh, because I didn't. All right, boom. Now, I don't know if we're in. Are we zoomed? Yeah, we can zoom some more, though. Okay, Senator can't use my tongue. Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, in a case involving the use of campaign funds to repay personal campaign loans, dealing the latest blow to campaign finance regulations. The court said that a federal cap on candidates using political contributions after an election to recoup personal loans made to their campaign was unconstitutional. Chief Justice Roberts wrote in the 6-3 decision, Justice Kagan wrote the dissent for her liberal colleagues, Justice Breyer and Justice Sotomayor. Quote, the question is whether this restriction violates the First Amendment rights of candidates and their campaigns to engage in political speech, end quote, Roberts wrote. He said there is, quote, no doubt, end quote, that the law does burden First Amendment electoral speech. Quote, any such law must be at least justified by a permissible interest, end quote. He added, and the government has not been able to identify a single case of so-called, quote, quid pro quo corruption. Hey, people who write English words, come up with something easier to say than quid pro quo. Roberts concluded that the provision burdens core political speech without proper justification. So that's his quote. Provision burdens core political speech without proper justification. End quote. In her dissenting opinion, Kagan criticized the majority for ruling against the law that she said was meant to combat, quote, a special danger of corruption, end quote, aimed at, quote, political contributions that will line a candidate's own pockets, end quote. Quote, in striking down the law today, end quote, she wrote, quote, the court greenlights all the sordid bargains Congress thought right to stop. In allowing those payments to go forward unrestrained, today's decision can only bring this country's political system into further disrepute, end quote. Indeed, she explained, quote, repaying a candidate's loan after he has won an election cannot serve the usual purposes of a contribution. The money comes too late to aid in any of his campaign activities. All the money does is enrich the candidate personally at a time when he can return the favor by a vote, a contract, an appointment. It takes no political genius to see the heightened risk of corruption, the danger of I'll make you richer and you'll make me richer arrangements between donors and office holders, end quote. In the statement after the ruling, Attorney Charles Cooper, who represented Cruz in the case, praised the decision as, quote, a victory for the First Amendment's guarantee of freedom of speech in the political process, end quote. In the case, campaign finance regulators at the Federal Election Commission argued that the cap, a part of the Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act of 2002, is necessary to protect against corruption. But a three-judge appellate court ruled in favor of Cruz last year, holding that the loan repayment restriction violates his First Amendment right to free speech. At oral arguments at the Supreme Court, the conservative justices seemed skeptical of the government's claims that the law serves a purpose of fighting corruption. Justice Amy Coney Barrett said that Cruz had emphasized that after election repayment scheme would simply replenish his coffers from money he had loaned. Quote, this doesn't enrich him personally because he's no better off than he was before, end quote, she said, adding, quote, it's paying a loan, not lining his pockets, end quote. Unfortunately, I can't sound like Amy Coney Barrett, or maybe that's fortunate. And Justice Brett Kavanaugh said that a candidate may feel reluctant to loan money before the campaign out of fear he would not be able to recoup it. Quote, that seems to be a chill on your ability to loan your campaign money. Jim says, so the court rules against that dollar's free approach, aligning with the Citizens United decision. Yep. Kavanaugh echoed a lower court opinion that went in favor of Cruz. quote, a candidate's loan to his campaign is an expenditure that may be used for expressive acts, end quote. The court said in an opinion written by D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals Judge Naomi Rowe, I'm not sure, might be Naomi Rowe. She and D.C. District Court Judges Amit Mehta and Timothy Kelly ruled unanimously. Quote, such expressive acts are burdened when a candidate is inhibited from making a personal loan or incurring one out of concern that she will be left holding the bag on any unpaid campaign debt, end quote. Who ruling at it? The article continues, Biden administration and campaign finance watchdogs supported limits. Federal law allows candidates to make loans to their campaign committees without limit. Cruz was challenging a provision of the Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act of 2002 that, however, imposed $250,000 limit on a campaign committee's ability to repay those loans with money contributed by donors after the election. A day before he was reelected in 2008, Cruz loaned his campaign committee $260,000, which was $10,000 over the limit, laying the foundation for his legal challenge to the cap. He could have been repaid in full by campaign funds if the repayment occurred 20 days after the election, but Cruz let the 20-day deadline lapse so he could establish grounds to bring the legal challenge. Jim says, so if the candidate made a personal loan to his campaign under the struck-down law, he must repay it before the election from the contributions made by other people. It sounds like it reads as though he had 20 days to pay after the election. So it's basically giving anybody that wants to give to a campaign a cap of $250,000 and the requirement to be paid back within 20 days. So if a candidate wants to loan money to a campaign, he has to take it out within the first 20 days. If he doesn't take it out within 20 days, or if he doesn't get the money from somebody within those 20 days, then he's not gonna be able to do it under the existing law. But they just struck down that law, so now he can do it. But if he waits after the election, only $250 of the loan could be repaid after the election. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, they struck down the law. So let's continue to read because maybe there's no limit now. Cruz's lawyers told the Supreme Court in briefs that, quote, no First Amendment right is more vital in our constitutional democracy than the freedom of a candidate to speak without legislative limit on behalf of his own candidacy. That makes it sound like he could donate whatever he wants. And as long as he can get the money back from his donors, he can put the money back in his own coffers. The law, quote, by substantially increasing the risk that any candidate loan will never be fully repaid, forces a candidate to think twice before making those loans in the first place, Cruz's brief said. Yeah, I agree. It sounds like if they struck down the law, he can loan himself as much as he wants. So that would mean that a rich candidate could easily defeat a non-rich candidate, because if they can put in whatever money they want, then they can easily win. So the Biden administration supported limits. Oops, went too fast. Do you want to keep reading this, Jim? There it is. Biden administration supported the limit, saying Cruz loan was made with the sole and exclusive motivation, their words, of triggering the lawsuit. Deputy Solicitor Stewart told the justices that the law, quote, imposes insubstantial burdens on the financing of electoral campaigns and it targets a practice that has significant corruptive potential, end quote. Quote, a post-election contributor generally knows which candidate has won the election, and a post-election contributions do not further the usual purposes of donating to electoral campaigns, end quote. So, campaign finance watchdogs supported the cap, arguing it's necessary to block undue influence by special interests, particularly the fundraising would occur once the candidate has become a sitting member of Congress. Noting that the provision in question was a, quote, relatively obscure one, end quote, Dan Weiner, the director of elections and government program at the Brennan Center for Justice at NYU Law, told CNN after the ruling that the, quote, practical implications for campaign finance laws are pretty minimal. Quote, I think that the decision says a lot about the court's broader approach to the First Amendment and the direction it's headed, end quote, said Weiner, whose organization filed a friend of the court brief in supporting the limits in the case. Jim says the problem with the ruling is that a rich candidate can loan his campaign millions of dollars and then get donations after election from vested interest to repay himself. Absolutely, Jim. That is the problem. It's another instance that they're going to chip away on the restraints that our system has traditionally imposed on unfettered private money in campaign, Weiner added. Chipping away at the 20-year campaign finance law. Monday's ruling marks the latest erosion at the O2 law, known by the names of its sponsors, the late Arizona Republican John McCain and former Wisconsin Russ Feingold. Both of those are senators, one being a Republican, one being a Democrat. Jim says, therefore converting campaign contributions to his own personal use, which is normally illegal under campaign finance laws. Exactly. The law sought to limit the flow of large, unregulated, and often secret money in U.S. elections. In recent years, however, the High Court has stripped away major provisions of that law, most notably in its blockbuster 2010 Citizens United decision, which allowed corporations and unions to unleash unlimited amounts of money in races as long as they spent independently of the politicians they support. In 2008, the justices also struck down the so-called Millionaires Amendment that aimed to level the playing field when wealthy candidates financed their own campaigns. That provision had relaxed contribution limits for opponents of self-funded candidates in an attempt to close the funding gap. In another ruling chipping away at the McCain-Feingold law, this one in 2004, the court's conservative majority struck down caps on how much an individual can donate in total during a single election cycle, establishing another route for big money in elections. Against this backdrop, advocates for limits on money in politics said the Monday ruling was relatively narrow in scope, leaving intact some of the remaining pillars of the law, including its ban on so-called soft money or unlimited donations to political parties. Quote, it's another blow to McCain-Feingold, end quote, Tara Malloy, a top lawyer with Campaign Legal Center, said of Cruz's decision, quote, it seems to be more of a death by 1,000 cuts instead of a body blow, end quote. Rick Hassan, an educational law expert at the University of California, Irvine Law Schools, who supports some limits on money in politics, said Monday's opinion was a, quote, relief, end quote, for him because it did not break significant new ground for a court that has dismantled other provisions of the law. The justices did not establish a new standard for what amounts to political corruption or disturb the remaining limits on campaign contributions directly to candidates, he noted in a blog post. But he added in an email to CNN, the court has shown itself not to care very much about the danger of corruption. These are his words. Seeing protecting the First Amendment rights of big donors is more important, end quote. This story was updated with additional reaction and background information. So, yeah. The better article, definitely, Jim, more detailed. The other one was like just almost like a brief article. I wonder what he says in this video. He probably just counts himself. Do you want to watch that, or you just want to read the article? Because I think it's better in a way to read the article than it is to actually go. Yes, it does invite corruption. It very much does invite corruption, and it's a very big problem in that respect. The video is worth it. I would agree, Jim, because all you're going to hear is him blowing his proverbial horn and being so happy that he won. You know, sometimes videos are good though, because like last week I had a video where Trump said something and it was absolutely hilarious. That was beneficial last week. So we have, I think we have a Twitch viewer, but that's probably my own account sending it out. And we have 2 viewers on YouTube. So you have somebody else on there with YouTube there, Jim. Maybe you can influence them to start chatting with us. But whoever that is on YouTube, thank you for watching. You're watching Freedom, Speech, and You. I am your primary host, Ken, and your host, Andrea, is off tonight because she is not available from work yet. And she might come on. Hey, Aaron, good to have you out there. She might come on in about 20 minutes. It all depends on whether Hal Sparks comes on at that time. We don't know. He's going to come on when and if he likes. But he is supposed to come on tonight, so I started early tonight just to make sure that I would get some time on the air, and I didn't know if it was going to be 15 minutes. I didn't know if it was going to be an hour and 15 minutes. So no telling. So, and what does Aaron want to talk about tonight? Because we discussed what Jim wants to talk about. Waiting on my Uber. Okay. Well, that's nice. Thank you for tuning in to us while you're waiting on your Uber. And I could sing to you and tell you, I've been waiting for an Uber like you. I've been waiting. But I'll leave it that. I'll leave it really short, you know. Yeah, it would be nice if we knew where you were going, but I'm not going to divulge your location because the hot and sexy Aaron West might get followed by people if I divulge her location. So not going to do that. Not going to do that at all. So need more things to talk about. What should we talk about? Should we talk about the title of this show? Because the title of this show, let's see if I can get back to that. Because I came up with a cute little title for the show. I've been inspired, of course, by Hal to come up with these cute, pretty little titles. And so I just kind of come up with these cute little titles for the show. So let's see if I can pull it up, because I want to read it the way that I created it. So it's out here somewhere on my Twitter profile. That was the link. I don't know. Do we have? No, I don't have it on the Twitter profile. I only have it probably on the Facebook page. So I'll bring up the Facebook page. Going back to your cat sitting place. That's an interesting one. I can't bring it up on there. Is that Diana Ross in the Supremes? Yes, and that's why I'm trying to. So I'm going to have to just read it from my phone because I don't have Facebook logged in on the computer that I dare use to put stuff on the screen. But yeah, I I borrow from Diana Ross and the Supremes to come up with tonight's title. So let me find it. I turn this down. So the title that I came up with was, come on, you're going to show me that part of my page? Okay, freedom, speech, and you die, and it's spelled D-I-E, but I meant die as in single dice. Die on a cross for the Supremes. Die on a cross for the Supremes. So I go die. Dice icon as in gambling. On a cross. Religion into politics. For Republican values. 5/22/2022. GQP hedges the entire 2022 election on their brand of values, which has nothing to do with the practice of Christianity. This and your topics on our show for tonight. And that was what I entitled tonight's show, because I am trying to be creative like Mr. Hal Sparks and come up with the cutesy little titles. Get off the cross, she says, we need the wood. Oh, that's interesting. I now have to look up that. Does that mean that they need the wood for a fire? Or they need the wood to build something? And of course, dirty little mind thinks of other use of the word word. So, yeah, whatever. Meanwhile, out on Discord, Andrea's out doing Discord stuff. So, Andrea's alive still, somewhere out there on Discord. If I have to explain it, okay, if you have to explain it, then I'm going to say that it is the dirty meaning. Oh my God. I'm gonna have to look up Letter Kenny. Letter Kenney. Okay, Letter Kenny is a sitcom. So okay, yes, I was right. It is the dirty meaning of the word wood. Okay, gotcha. We're not going to go further into detail just in case there are small children who are listening with their moms later on. Yeah. Okay. Lumber is expensive. Some lumber is not expensive. Some of it you can get for free, but whatever. Whatever. The question is, do you want the free lumber or not? So, whatever. Especially in that area, not much wood around there. I have a feeling I'm going to be watching a show at some point in the near future. The things I sacrifice because I don't watch much TV anymore. Whatever. By the way, Andrea says that is my pet phrase, whatever, because I say it just about every time that we have a conversation. So it's just kind of funny. It's just one of those things. Turn the subtitles on. They talk fast. Okay. All those double entendre things go right over my head. They once did with me, Jim. There's a real life story that centers around somebody tricking me into writing the S word on a piece of paper in Catholic school. Yes. And I had no idea what the word meant. The individual tricked me into writing it by saying, if you twist this word, and the word was this, THIS. He said, if you rearrange the letters in the word THIS, you'll get a funny word. And I had no clue. And I wrote that word down. And I was in Catholic school, and I got my hand slapped for writing that word down. Then I had to find out what that word was. And I never used that word until much later when there was a good reason to use the rearranged THIS. But yes, THIS happens. Okay. Whatever. Hopefully you're finding tonight's show amusing, if nothing else. So, did anybody put anything on Discord? Yeah. We do have Jim on Discord. And I will show you where Discord is. So I will, can I do that? Can I grab from this page and grab from there? I don't know. Let's see. Yes, I can. So if somehow you could actually follow this is the Discord link. But odds are that that is an annoyance. And if I remember correctly, I'm going to test it before I do. Does it have to be capitalized? I think so. I think this is the Discord, but I'm going to grab it before I test it, and I'm going to test it. Came up from me. So it came up from me. I think this is right. I think this is also the Discord, but if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. That's easier to remember. One thing is, though, before the show is over, I will put that on Facebook. An error occurred. What the heck? That's not good. Is Facebook still up? Yes, it works. Okay, good. All right, then. For whatever reason, the Facebook comment didn't come up, so I'm going to go quickly look and just see if Facebook is still up. And that's not going to let me turn that down. So let me just see, go to my pages. It looks like it's still working. Or is it frozen? I'm gonna put hi. Okay, it's still working. All right, so it is still working. I just for a moment thought that Facebook had stopped, but it didn't stop. It for whatever reason it chose not to make my comment to go out to Facebook. So crazy Facebook. So Aaron West went to Facebook and said hello. So thank you very much. That's nice of you to test it and make sure that it does work for us. So, do y'all have more topics you want to give to us? If you want to kick them into the Discord that you just got the link to, that would be awesome. Because I don't know if you can put a link in here, and I know that if you put them in Discord, um, then I can grab them from there. So anyway, do you have more topics, or do you just want to mention a topic that you want to discuss tonight? Meanwhile, I'm answering a quick thing. I did open my Facebook page on my phone and it worked. So you're not a mod, Jim. Yeah, because you're not a mod, you can't put links in here. And you're trying to open the Facebook page. I would put the links on Discord because that'd just be the easiest way to put in links. And Aaron asks, "Are you a doctor?" I think referring to me. No, I'm somebody that provides tech support for this 90-year-old lady that lives nearby, and I was over at our house before this show, and I connected up her Bluetooth speaker, and now it's not working. So yeah, she's contacting me because her speaker's not working, and she's trying to figure out how to get it to reconnect. So I'm just telling her. I think she got it to work. So I'm going to say, so it works now then? Question mark. So she's replying. So if y'all don't have topics, I guess I have to go back over and show her how to connect her speaker, and we'll just wind this up for the night. And we'll say that we at least discussed the topic that Jim had, and we had some humor and fun, and we'll leave it at that. That we got an hour in for this show tonight. What do y'all think? Because at this point, it's only about 7 o'clock my time, and if I go back over there, I can maybe get things figured out for her. And then maybe I can come back and watch Hal Sparks if he comes on tonight like he said he would. And we'll just see what happens from there. Not much happening here, says Jim. I'm getting involved in a local referendum. So what's your local referendum? Why is it certain words I can't say? What are you thanking me for? Says Aaron. LOL. I'm thanking you for making me laugh because, as you know, I am dealing with grief situations. And I will not go into that for the sake of the other viewers because they don't need to know. But suffice it to say that a laugh every day is a really good thing. And so, a humor, a laugh about anything is welcome to me. And, if I'm on and I'm laughing instead of getting all messed up about there not being people on here in mass quantities, then that's a good thing because people are tune in and go, wait, he laughs, he has fun. And he says hello to his host, Andrea, who is out there in wherever land and who probably just got off from work. So welcome to the show, Andrea. So tonight, to recap, we have discussed the topic that Jim had about Ted Cruz and him being able to prevail in the Supreme Court with his challenge to a law allowing him or not allowing him to contribute to his own campaign and spend more than 20 days to pay himself back. And so he basically prevailed on that. And Jim thanks Aaron for telling him why his LinkedIn show. And Andrea chimes in happily and sarcastically, I'm right here. Well, of course you're right there. If you're not right there, that's a bad thing. And of course, we've had Aaron come in tonight and tell us that tonight's title was the source of interesting fodder because when I mentioned a cross, she said to get off the cross because we need the wood. And of course, my mind immediately went to, is it something to do with a certain kind of wood that only adults understand? And turns out it was because it was referencing a show that obviously was using that remark. And so, so come the laugh, folks. So Jim says there are certain big dollar folks here who want to I'm going to think that word is supposed to be elect. Okay. Who want to elect water district board instead of the current appointment process. Okay, so they want to elect the board instead of appoint. Andrea says she is still at work. Well, thank you for checking in with us, even though you're still at work. And so here we are at the 7 o'clock hour. We still don't know if Hal is going to come on or not come on. We're just waiting to see what happens. I'm looking to see if anybody else put any more topics in Discord. Nobody has. I would suggest that you do put the topics in Discord. So I will give out the Discord again, which I can post here. No, I can't post it there because I posted it on this side of the computer world. Okay, so I'll post it on this side. So this is the Discord link, if the link that takes you there. If you want to post a topic on there, if you have a link that you want to share, that will allow you to share the link. Andrea says she hasn't heard anything from Hal, so she doesn't know. And Jim says, I've been using their position on the board to create a slush fund, and the appointing county board has not reappointed them. So they figure If it goes to election process, they can buy themselves a seat back on the board and continue their theft. Not so great. So, anybody got any more topics? Or am I going to close this for being about an hour and 15 minutes long and go do tech support again? Y'all still here? I'm still here. I still see them here, at least according to the stat counter. They're still here, Aaron, so I don't know. We'll see. I don't know what level of persistence there is. So I had to exit my Uber and get into the apartment. Okay, so you're home. Hooray, hooray, hooray. Big dollar guys are all GOP and county government here is Democrats. Yep. County government here where I am in Florida is all Republican, I believe. It might be, I believe it's Republican. It's either dominant Republican or it's all Republican. And I don't know. I'd have to look and see whether they are still nonpartisan. And we don't know why Hal is going on tonight. We just know that he was supposed to go on tonight. He's mentioned it more than once, so we don't know. But since a lot of his Sunday nights were usually at roughly this time, I didn't want to start at this time, because if I started at this time and he started at this time, it would be a futile effort. So Jim says, my county is an island of blue in the vast red wasteland that is rural Illinois. Yep. So we don't know. We don't know. We have no idea why Hal might go on tonight. We don't know when he might go on tonight. We don't know what to talk about, because one of the things that I do for this show is I don't come in with a whole bunch of concepts of what to do, because sometimes if you come in with a whole bunch of concepts of what to do, people are like, oh, I've heard that all over and over before, and I don't want to hear any more of that. So it's just easier to just let the viewers decide what we talk about. So the only thing about letting the viewers decide what you talk about is then the people that expect you to have a bunch of concepts go, wait, what is this show about? It's a show about nothing, but it's not Seinfeld. Okay, Jim says, it's blue because of the higher education level due to the presence of University of Illinois. Yep. You know, the funny thing about ad-libbing music is that you have to think back and go, why did I ad-lib music before? So, Andrea, I don't know if you're going to tune back and watch this later, but Erin was grabbing an Uber, as you obviously gathered from the chat that she just got out of the Uber. And I said, so when she said that she was looking for an Uber, I went, I've been waiting for an Uber like you. I've been waiting. Not exactly like that. So anyway, but we've had some fun and some humor tonight. And that's important, because in serious times like we live in, it's good to have humor to make you survive and get through it all. So anything else you all want to talk about? Jim says, I don't have much to talk about. I usually need foils to bounce remarks off of. Yep. Me too, in a way. Andrea does this. Uh, see, I have to give away the fact that the very first rock band I actually liked was Foreigner. So I really have Foreigner songs stuck in my head. But I also have Journey songs stuck in my head, as long as all kinds of other music. And you will gather this over and over again, that I will use musical references. And when somebody brings up any phrase that comes from a song, I will reference it and write about it. So yeah, you just got to put up with that. Sorry. What was the other thing? You can talk about the J6 committee getting ready to show what they have. Yeah, that would be good. So, January 6th committee. Jim usually needs people like you to argue with. Okay, one day ago, CNN says Giuliani meets with committee. Three days ago, MSNBC has evidence suggests lawmaker gave reconnaissance tours. 19 hours ago, Giuliani interviewed for several hours by January 6th committee. Jim says, "Oh no, you're not one of those Foreigner and Journey guys. Now I have to reevaluate my opinion of you." Don't stop believing in me, Jim. And no, I won't sing that song because I sing it too high. If I bring it up in news, one day ago, 19 hours ago, one day ago, 2 days ago. Do you want to talk about Giuliani and January 6th, or do you want to talk about something else? Let me put in January 6th committee ready to release support and see what that brings. So 5 days ago, January 6th gets ready for prime time. 3 days ago, January 6th panel seeks the information from GOP rep Loudermilk about Capitol tour. So most of these are older than a day old. So I don't know which article you'd prefer to read, because if you read something from 5 days ago, then Hal has probably already talked about it. Why they don't have something brand new? I guess because it's Sunday. Jim says, no, I would prefer to never have to see or hear from any of those crazy Trumpers ever again. Agreed. Jim says, I had bad experience with other people who like those bands way too much, and now I associate the bands with them. Okay, well, in general, I won't bring it up. I just kind of bring up why I do little parodies and stuff, but no, I won't bring it up too much. I will tell you this, that Jonathan Cain, the keyboardist in Journey, is married to Paula White. And because he is married to Paula White, his current politics align with her. Maybe they always did. And so he is a Trumper. And because he is a Trumper, and because I've seen the band enough, and because they only have really just like 2 new songs, and because tickets are way too expensive, I wouldn't go. Besides which, the date that they were closest to my location was the day before my wife's funeral. I wouldn't go. That would have been a conflict of interest. So there was no desire to go. And without overemphasizing the bands, I'd really rather go see something that I haven't seen. So I would rather see some stuff that I haven't seen. Now you have me curious, Jim, what kind of music do you like? So, because you'll find that I like all kinds of music. And I know that this is primarily a politics show, but we're discussing our opinions. And my opinion is, for the most part, except when there is music that is extremely derogatory, I don't draw a line on music. I listen to all kinds of music. Aaron West is going grr. Andrea says I have to put my phone on the charger. I'm thinking you were going grr because of Paula White and being Trump's spiritual advisor while he was in office. Back then you were into blues and jazz. So you would probably like me to discuss the fact that I saw B.B. King more so than Journey. And boy, was he good. And you'd also possibly like me to discuss the fact that I like Stevie Ray Vaughan. And I could easily go to a concert like that. So yeah, I listen to a little bit of everything. In fact, if I weren't doing this talk show, I would probably be doing a DJ thing. But because you have to go through and get rights and clearances for the music, I don't. But I know friends who do DJ online, and I know somebody who does a blues show. So yeah. When I DJ'd online, I did rock, I did alternative, I did all kind of stuff. Paula White stole my Florida church out from under my pastor after her husband, the lead pastor, passed away. So is that the church that she is currently at, or what? Because it's on the outskirts of Orlando somewhere. I can't I type appropriately. So that's the Church of Destiny, 505 McCormick Road, Apopka, Florida. Oh, I would imagine, yeah. You'd be bitter about seeing somebody like that take over the church that you like, especially if the church that you like was essentially nonpartisan, and then somebody came in that is partisan, because she definitely is. Yeah, New Destiny in Apopka. There was somebody who knew that I liked Journey, and he was like, "You could go over and you could go to the church and you can get him to sign your albums. You just bring him in there." And I'm like, no, not gonna do that. Not gonna do that. No. You and your friends were the only white people in the audience back when you saw B.B. King in the 1970s. Now, in the audience that I was in when I saw B.B. King, it was a venue that is local to me, and there was probably more white people than black people, I would think, that night. But that's probably because whatever. Yeah, she changed the name of the church. Yeah, I would imagine she did. Yeah. Have you seen the video of her where the guy takes what she was saying when she was campaigning for Trump and doing it from the pulpit, and she does the thing where she's going out of Africa right now, because there's this guy that did a video of her, and he basically turned it into a metal tune. So yeah, he turned it into a metal tune and kind of made fun of her when she's doing that out of Africa thing. I think Hal might have showed that, but yeah, that was kind of funny. But yeah, just don't care to support the band right now, at least monetarily. So anyway, because it's too expensive, and it just is what it is. The problem is that though by not going, I'm also missing out on Toto, and I would like to see Toto because I'm also a Toto fan from back in the day. So, oh well. But right now, I don't need to spend the money. I need to use the money for things I need to use it for. So sometimes you have to pay the bills instead of going and having fun. So Aaron, are you still in Florida? Because I didn't really know. No, that's right. You told me you're not in Florida. Never mind. That's right. I know the answer to that, and I'm not going to give away. The angels are coming from Africa. Yeah. Did you actually hear it? Let's see. YouTube. Paula White. Out of Africa right now. Metal. Yeah. So, yeah. Let's see. Got to get the thing here.
For I hear the sound of victory. 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 Jesus, strike and 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 strike until you have victory. For every enemy that is aligned against you, let there be that we would strike the ground, for you will give us victory, God. I hear the sound of abundance of rain. I hear the sound of victory. I hear the sound of shouting and singing. I hear a sound of victory. I hear a sound of abundance of rain. I hear a sound of victory. I hear a sound of an abundance of rain. I hear a sound of victory. The Lord says it is done. The Lord says it is done. The Lord says it is done. For I hear victory, 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 victory in the corners of heaven, in the corners of heaven, victory, 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 victory. For angels are being released right now. Angels are being dispatched right now. From Africa right now. Africa right now. Africa right now. From Africa right now. They're coming here. They're coming here. In the name of Jesus. South America. They're coming here. They're coming here. They're coming here. They're coming here. From Africa. From South America. Angelic forces. Angelic reinforcement. Angelic reinforcement. Angelic reinforcement. Yuka, hata, anda, anda. Oh, the bata, rasa, anda, anda, rasa, da. For I hear the sound of victory. 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 I hear the sound of victory.
That is just too much. I know you're not into metal, but it's just the whole thing, you know. It's like he heard her doing what she was doing, and he was like, I'll make it into metal. Because he starts out, I didn't show you the start of the video. He starts out with he's sitting at his breakfast table and he's holding his phone and he's looking at it, and she's doing all of that, and he just like gets this idea, because that's the way all his videos start out, is that he hears some kind of sound and he creates a metal tune out of it. So he's like got a metal tune where he's hearing the beep of the dryer when it goes through its cycles and tells him that it's done, and he creates like a metal tune out of that. So he is creative dude. But yeah, that one is just too much. And when I shared that on Twitter, I was still following her husband, and he was following me, and he just latched onto it, and she started following me, and I said, oh, the heck with this. They're going to probably send everybody on me. And I stopped following him, and I blocked him, and I blocked her, because I was like, yeah, you know, whatever. Oh, okay. I get that. Yeah. Andrea says, move back to Florida. Aaron says, no way. Yeah. The only thing I don't get about, and I'm going to talk about this because this comes up over and over again on shows like Hal's and John's and everybody else's show that is supporting of the Democratic Party, is people constantly go, can't we all just move all the rich people to one state? And can't we all do this? And the opposite is true. The reality is, wherever there is a red state, we should take some of the Democrats that are in the blue states and move them to the red states. Find the willing ones and move them to the red states and have them vote blue. And then we can turn those states to blue. And then we can turn the country to blue. And then we can solve things. This defeatist attitude that some people have, that everything has to go their way or they have to give up, that just doesn't work. You need to be confident. You need to be confident like Hal is. And you just say, we can do this. We can go vote. We can control it. We can make it happen. Don't sit at home and say you can't do this. You can do this. So anyway, I'm going to go back to Discord real quick. I don't see any new topics in there. I will tell you that if you're at the end of your topics, then I can shut this down. I'm still wondering if Hal's going to chime in. I don't know. When's it going to come on? Is it going to come on later? Yeah, you're happy you live in Illinois. I'll tell you the number one thing you're probably happy you live in Illinois about is that you have seasons too. You do not have to deal with the fact that it was 100 today around where you live, or close to 100. What was the high today here? Let's go see. Let's go see what the high today was. Yeah. I could go back to my back room and look at my personal thermometer, but I can't look at it electronically. I think the high today was probably, where's the hourly? Looks like the high today around here was supposed to be 88, and it felt like, or it was 82 and felt like 88. But it was hotter for Andrea, because Andrea said that she had 100 degrees today because she happened to message me and tell me that it was 100 degrees today. So hotter for the central part of the state in Florida. So, yeah. It was a nice 60 degrees here, but in the 90s last week. So, yeah. Got any more topics? Or do I wrap this show up? I wish I could play music for you. We could play some blues. But music is something that YouTube will not allow unless it's certain kinds of music. And Facebook definitely shuts you down. So it's kind of a thing. 91 degrees where Carolinas is, where Aaron is. So problem here is that the humidity is usually high when it's hot. Yep, that's the same problem here in Florida. I mean, it varies because sometimes it's hot and not so humid, and sometimes it's hot and super humid. And yeah. The other problem for you is that a lot of people in your vicinity, Jim, don't necessarily have a powerful air conditioner, or maybe they don't have air conditioning at all because they can usually cope. And then when it gets super hot, it's really bad. Or that's actually more of a problem for the Northeast probably than maybe it is for Illinois. I'm not sure. But it is a problem in the Northeast. So. Andrea had said earlier that she wanted to talk about the January 6th committee, and I looked at a few articles, and every article was either 19 hours ago or 21 hours ago, and there wasn't really a summary that was saying that they were going to give the report from the Jan 6 committee. And if there was, it was from 5 days ago, and I was like, okay, the article is from 5 days ago. Is there anything in the article that we haven't already discussed on the other talk shows that we watch? That's the question. So everyone has both AC and furnaces. So that's good. Yep. Okay. So, does everybody want to keep talking about something, or do you want to close the show and come back to this next week? Get a rest period between now and whenever Hal comes on to go do your thing. Jim says, I think we'll be seeing some more of the subpoena guys talking to J6 before the public hearings start. Yes, probably so. I could go to that article from 5 days ago and see what it says. I just wonder if, tomorrow there'll be a newer article that would have more information. So it's kind of the toss up as to whether to go to the article or not. So, don't know. don't know whether to go to the article or not. Andrea, are you still at the job at this time? Now we have 5 viewers. Okay, so we have 5 viewers. One of those viewers is myself resending it out on Twitch. So we have 4 viewers right now on YouTube. So apparently we have somebody else out there besides Jim, Aaron, and Andrea. Who is our mystery person out there? Would you please chime in and tell us who you are? Because we'd like to acknowledge you. Jim says, I'd rather wait until the public hearings actually start. Yeah, there's more to talk about when the hearings actually start than there is to speculate about what they might talk about. Because if you're speculating about what they might talk about, then it could be way off base from what they actually do talk about. So it's just hard to know. I'm going to go back to my phone and see if Mr. Houseparks has tweeted anything. No, he hasn't tweeted in 6 hours, according to Twitter. Oh, there's a cute cartoon on Twitter that Andrea retweeted. There's a cat behind the counter at the cashier, and there's a cat as a customer. And the cat behind the counter says, need a bag. And the customer cat says, yes. And then both cats stop and think, and both cats put the bags over their heads. That is so cute. Okay. Let's see what Aaron put on hers. Let's see. I guess there is no Aaron West Twitter account. And Jim, I don't think you have a Twitter account either. So I guess we're not going to see anything there. Oh, well. Jim says on Discord, got nothing else for you. Yes, but oh well. You know, the simple fact that the 3 of you and whoever our mystery viewer is showed up tonight to listen to me run my mouth, that is a blessing. You know, it is nice for you to come in and let me run my mouth and talk to you about things and laugh and do different things. Jim says I have a Twitter account. So let's go see what's funny on Jim's Twitter account while we hope that the person that is out there that is on YouTube that is looking at us can actually chime in and tell us. So let's see what's on Jim's. What's humorous on Jim's account? Well, first off, the top thing on Jim's account is what we discussed tonight at the top of the show. And user Mayo says, why in the fuck is Ivanka in Ukraine? Doesn't she know they've been through hell already? And Jim retweets and says, Jared is probably buying up some depressed Ukrainian real estate. Yes, probably. Okay. Also, Jim retweets, why do conservative, this is by Erie Seoban, why do conservative evangelicals want to make everyone so miserable? And Jim comments with retweet, it's about the promise of heaven. Heaven isn't so attractive unless your life on earth is miserable. Yes, most people that are overly centered on heaven and wanting everybody else to do something so that there is quote unquote a heaven for them and everyone else are usually thinking about the fact that their life is extremely miserable on earth, because a lot of them ascribe to this belief that they have to be miserable on earth in order to atone for their sins and get into heaven. So yeah, there's a lot of that going on with some people. Not everybody, not all religions, but there's certainly enough of them, and those are the ones who usually try to make everyone else do whatever. So yes. And Aaron, I do not know why I am not seeing your account. Unless the picture doesn't look like you. So that's the question. Does the picture not look like the Aaron West that's associated with this account? That's the question. And the other question is, dummy dumb, why am I not looking at the other account? Well, one of the reasons why I'm not looking at the account associated with this program is to do that. I have to do it on a computer because of the way that I created the account. So hang on. Let me look at the account that's associated with this program. Then I can see Aaron's account. So I think Aaron is somebody that is following me. And how do I see the people following me? You think I would remember that. But I don't remember at all. Not at all. No, I vaguely remember that you were following the account. I can't even get it to really work because I'm not used to using it not on a phone, and I can't log into this account on a phone because I created it with an email account. So it's like a pain in my you know what. But there's my followers. I think you're following the other followers. Nope. You must be following my main account. So why couldn't I see it on the main account? Let's see. I'll go put it in the main account and see. And yes, people, I actually have 4 Twitter accounts. It's craziness of my life to have so many accounts. That's going to be fun. I have 210 followers on my main account. I think you're following one of my other accounts. You're probably on my Twitch or something. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Too many dang accounts. Why do I have so many accounts? Well, I have an account for me, for the stuff that I post as myself. I have an account for this podcast. I have an account for the other podcast. I have the account that I created for the page that everything was under. So yeah. And because only certain people are following certain ones, I have to maintain the other ones. If I could get everybody on their appropriate, proper, respective accounts, then it would be awesome. But instead, I have to go and like tweet about this show. I have to tweet from the place where this show used to reside. And then I have to tweet it on my own account so that people actually, do whatever to find me. And what do we have? We have a handful of people. Can I put the hand up? Yeah, it kind of sort of shows because of the way I got this. Jim goes, I'm a bot. Nah, I'm not a bot. No. I'm not a bot. Here's the thing. According to somebody on Periscope, which preceded Twitter Live, according to an individual on Periscope who did DJ, and I don't know if he still does, He says that my name is used by an adult male performer. Now, that's not his real name, but he's using my name or something similar to my name. And because he's using my name, I think some of the adult performers think I am him, hiding under a different picture. And so maybe I have more people following me than it should be. So, whatever the reason, I've got all these people, but I've got 210 people following me on my main account. And I have, I don't know, something like 3 or 4 following this page associated with Freedom Speech and You. And ones that are following the one that I just changed to a Democratic Journey. Again, Jim, just because I mentioned Journey doesn't mean the band, although I was kind of thinking that when I created the name. That's the one that I changed from Space Coast Progressive News because it wound up not being about that. Originally, I had planned to have Space Coast Forum, the apolitical version of my news page, and Space Coast Progressive News be the political side. So I created one, in the beginning, one group on Facebook. And over time, I had to create the page because I decided to create a page thinking, I would become a newspaper type thing someday. I would post videos. I would compete with others. But then I realized there were so many others out there competing. And so now I'm maintaining that page as a Democratic journey because it's about my conversion from the Republican Party to the Democratic Party. And so what my goal with that page is just try to post stuff that try to get other people to join the Democratic Party. That's the goal of that page, is to promote not only myself, but others. Because the Twitter account doesn't have that many followers, but the Facebook one does. So it behooves me to try to get some approximately 50 people to maybe someday tune in, and see what happens. But yeah, you laugh at me and you call me a porn dog. I had people following me on Periscope back in the day when it existed as Periscope. And this guy that was the DJ that told me about that, he was like, stop promoting my show. Because there was a function similar to retweeting that existed for Periscope where you could share it. And he was like, stop doing that. Because every time you do that, I have all these porn people and then I have to kick them out because they're saying stuff I don't want to associate with my show. So eventually I just stopped. And eventually I got so busy I couldn't even watch the show. And eventually Periscope ended and became Twitter Live, and I don't know what happened to his show. So that's what happened with that. But yeah, I was going to be just like him. I was going to have a DJ show. I was going to play stuff, do requests like I had done on Second Life, a virtual platform. And it would have been fun. But basically, once Periscope got bought out by Twitter, there goes all the fun and the freedom of playing music without licensing. And so ended the idea. And so I started thinking, well, I should produce videos. I should, maybe talk about rocket launches and stuff. And I tried to do that. But I just lacked the equipment and the money for the equipment. So I gave up on doing that. And next thing I knew, there was a reason to do a talk show. So I was trying to do a talk show for people that I was friends with on Facebook. And I created the talk show. And the talk show was about politics. And I called it Slightly Off Axis Podcast because I was doing it with a camera and a phone, and all of my views were, gee, can I make the camera and phone? All my views were like this, although they were actually probably the other profile. And so that was the idea that I would do a talk show similar to this talk show. Well, along came the accusations that there was something else about me, and that I was the reason people couldn't access their comments, and why they were getting banned here and there, and none of that was true. And so the next thing I knew, the audience that I had of a handful of people just up and totally disappeared. And so when that happened, I lost my interest in doing it. So fast forward a few months after that, and Andrea gets in touch with me and says, I want you to do that talk show you did. So I said, really? She said, yes. So I was like, well, I already changed that talk show. I took Slightly Off Axis podcast, and I decided to make it into a interview show about people with the space program, because I've always felt that I was doing the podcast still with that camera profile, until I realized I can do it with this laptop. And I thought, I've always wanted a career in the space program, but I can't actually have a career in the space program. I have a great career. I like what I do. I was able to take care of my wife because of the career that I have, and the freedom that I have with my career to work around my hours. And I was able to do my career from home because of the type of career that I have, because I can remote in. So I was like, okay, I really want to do this thing about the space program. I really wanted to work at the space program. What can I do? And so I was thinking, I never got to tell my uncle's story. I never got to hear his story. He worked on the Apollo program, and I was like, I really wanted to tell his story. It really would have been nice if, as a younger man, as a youth, as a teenager, whatever, that I had been able to crack the facade that he put up after he lost his job after the Apollo layoffs. If I could have got him to tell his story somehow, then I would have been able to tell his story after he died. And people would have known his story. And so I went and I created the interview program, and I took the name of that podcast and I assigned it to that program. And I also thought that Slightly Off Access was a way of saying that here I am interviewing these people. I don't have any access to the place where they actually worked. I couldn't meet them at the job and interview them in person. I'm offsite. I'm off access. And so the title fit to me. And I was like, yeah, this works. So I created that podcast, and I did that podcast for, I think, 2 months. And so life intervened, and I couldn't really concentrate on that podcast because there were two things going on. One, everyone associated with the possible guest list for that podcast was experiencing what we all call the holidays. And so the holidays were upon us, and nobody wanted to do an interview. So that was why it dried up. The next thing I knew, without getting into particulars, my wife's health declined. And when I was ready to start it up again, I couldn't, because my wife's health had declined, and I couldn't devote the time that's necessary to interview people, because interviewing people requires one to call them on the phone, go through a pre-interview, and see if their technology sense associated with their job translates into enough technology sense to know how to do certain things on a phone or on a tablet or on a computer, that they can follow those instructions and participate in the show like this. So, you've got to know that the person on the other end can do what Andrea does and follow the instructions and join the broadcast. You also have to know, do they want to do the broadcast this way, where they're being seen? And so there you go. You have a list of people, you have a list of questions, but ultimately you have to talk to them ahead of time, because one of the things you want to know when you interview someone about their job is you want to know, is there a sensitive topic they don't want to talk about? If there's a sensitive topic that they don't want to talk about, you don't want to bring that up during the interview, because you don't want the interviewee to say, oh, okay, you brought this up, I'm leaving. You want the interviewee to stay. Excuse me, but I need water badly. You want the interviewee to stay. And you want the interviewee to tell you, you should ask me about this, because that was one of the most interesting aspects about my job. So with the number of people I interviewed, I think it was about, might have been 7. If it was 8, it was 8, but it was something like that. It was less than a dozen people. There was the pre-show call. There was a pre-show interview. There was the technology explanation. There was the additional preparation if they didn't want to be seen on screen, because then I had to know what they wanted to do. Did they want to do a PowerPoint? And that meant getting a PowerPoint and figuring out how to present a PowerPoint here in StreamYard to make it work. And fortunately, it works. So, there was that. And then also the fact that, excuse me, the fact that I interviewed those 7 or so people, when I did it, I didn't have the microphone that I have for you right now. And so when I did it, I was using this microphone, the one that's the kind that you use with a phone. And when you use this kind of microphone, and you're somebody like me and you're constantly moving, then you have a situation where you have the motion of the microphone against the clothing. So, because all of this is done with automatic volume, then you would lose the audio, and I would talk loud and they would talk softer, and you would hardly hear them. Okay. And so that meant that maybe people didn't watch for very long. And so because it was an interview show, then I would take it, I would go back and I would edit it, and I would take the audio and I would post the audio so that people could watch it later on, but they could also listen to it. And then they could hear it distinctly and clearly. So I would take out all of these nasty pop sounds that were created by the microphone. I would take out the pop sounds that the guest had created. I would take out the other elements. Like if the guest was participating from a cafe, I would get rid of all the noise from the cafe that obscures you listening to the guest speak. I did all of that. So an interview might last 38 minutes, might last over an hour, and I might spend the next rest of the week editing the audio to produce an audio podcast from it that people can listen to. Now, doing that, I did get more people to listen to the audio podcast, and people were more interested. But then along comes Facebook, like about a month ago. or in the last month. And Facebook, in its ultimate wisdom, decides that you can't post podcasts. So there you go. Facebook basically took away my ability to disseminate the audio versions of my podcast and tell people where to go find them. Now you see why, Jim, that I need a website, because now I need a website so I can link people to the podcast and say, for the podcast version of this thing, go here. Now you see why, all of you, I invested in a microphone, because I said, I've got to get rid of this business. That doesn't work for me. People are not staying tuned in. They're not watching. They're not going to watch this show either if they hear that noise all the time. And so, that's why I tell you all of this, because that was worth the investment in the microphone. And ultimately, both shows were invested, worth the investment of $10 a month to make it possible for people to decide where they want to tune in and have 3 different places to tune in. Now, I apologize that I drink water during the show. And I apologize that I gulp when I'm on the show by myself. But I literally have to do that in order to talk this much. And what you'll find is when Andrea is on the show and she's speaking, I'm muting a lot. And when Andrea is on the show, I am hiding a lot, because I will put Andrea up solo on camera and let her do her speaking so that I can gulp down the water that is necessary for me to keep talking. But yes, Jim, I don't have a studio staff or a producer. I produce it all myself. And to be honest, I told you I did about 7 of those shows for the other podcast, and I still have one that I have to do. I haven't sat down and done it. I will eventually sit down and do it and finish it and post it. And that's probably when I will bring all of the audio podcasts for that show online. And I've thought about doing it for this show, but I think all of you would agree that if there is ever an audio podcast of this show, it'll be because we have an audience of 50 or 100 or 250 or whatever, and that something is discussed. And if there is an audio podcast of this show, it's definitely going to be the best of bits. So it would be the best of bits so that you could listen to them anywhere. And when this gets to be something more than just me and Andrea talking and people are actually really interacting with it, then hopefully there'll be content that you're going to want to watch more than once. But right now, it's just me. It's just Andrea. We're doing what we think we need to do for our hearts and souls. And we're trying to bring you an entertaining show that discusses things and makes you feel connected with your hosts. And I hope that that's what you feel when you watch this. So, yeah. Jim jokingly says, get My Pillow to sponsor you. And Jim, you may need a job soon, says Andrea about the My Pillow guy. There was something about, what was the something about the My Pillow guy? I think that was on Discord today. There was something on Discord about My Pillow guy. What was that? I don't know if we're allowed to discuss what happens on other Discords. Are we allowed to discuss what happens on other Discords? Maybe not, since it's private. But I will just say that there was a Discord, and somebody was discussing the My Pillow guy and how stiff his pillows were, and and how there's nothing to them. And that's all I'm going to say, because I'm not going to violate the terms of service of another Discord. So, but yeah, the guy is what he is. I mean, if he heard us talking about him, the next thing we would know is that he would be coming on and doing his spiel and saying that the liberals are now dissing my pillows, and they're doing this and that to my pillows in the stores. And now I'm going to take all my pillows out of the stores and make sure that you can only buy them online. And I'm going to give you free shipping because, I can't have these liberals doing nasty things to my pillows inside the stores. So yeah, go read our favorite host's Discord if you're in it. Go see the discussion about the My Pillow and laugh because it's funny. Are we through? Are we through talking? Did I take up enough of your time? What do y'all think? What do you think? Are we through? It's over 2 hours. It's getting to the point where Mr. Pillow can't give his stuff away. Yeah, I suspect so, Jim. The one thing that I did want to tell you that I didn't tell you earlier, and I don't have to belabor this point, is I had said that my other podcast was meant to tell the stories of people who worked in the space program, and that I couldn't interview my uncle. In fact, I actually, and they won't watch this, so I can say this, I actually gave my uncle's address to a reporter and a phone number to try to get the reporter to call him to get his story when an Apollo anniversary came up. And I don't think he answered the phone, and I know that he didn't get a hold of him, and I know that he didn't get his story. But I was hoping that maybe the reporter could convince him to give his story. Now, I hold the distinction of being one of the people that interviewed this individual who won 2 Silver Snoopy Awards. And that's sort of rare that somebody would win 2 of these awards. And you can look up what a Silver Snoopy Award winner is. But basically, it is an award winner for someone who created a sense of greater safety around the space program, and more specifically the shuttle program. So these people awarded with this award basically went above and beyond the call, so that after Challenger, they created something that enhanced the safety of the program. And that's why they win the award. He had 2 awards. I interviewed him, and he stayed off camera, and we did his presentation. I hold the distinction, and I'm happy to say that I interviewed him before he passed away, because he recently passed away. So that brings me great joy, knowing that I interviewed someone who was able to tell his life story, his service to his country as a military man, and his involvement in the space program before he died. So just one of the things that I did, because I was able to do a podcast. So when you all tune in and you watch this podcast, you never know what it is you'll do. When you watch this podcast, maybe there's somebody watching that doesn't say a word, but maybe we're turning that person into a new Democrat. And maybe we're winning elections because of that person and all the people that person talks to. So think about that tonight, folks. When you participate in this, you could be encouraging someone. Encourage someone. encourage each other, and always send each other love, because love is the most valuable thing that two humans can share. And with that, I will end my show tonight. Thank you for tuning into Freedom Speech and You. Tune in next week. We'll be here with new topics chosen by your selection. And of course, I have clicked the wrong computer. Is it going to let me do it? I'll go back to that computer. Hopefully, I haven't crashed the show too bad. But thank you again. We'll see you next week, probably at the usual time. Bye for now.